Imagine a small doorway, so low that you would have to bow your head just slightly as you enter. Beyond it lies a warm, quiet space where light does not shine brightly, but settles gently on walls made of wood and earth. You hear a faint sound, the soft touch of a bamboo ladle brushing the inside of a tea bowl. There's no urgency here, no loud voices, no desire to impress. There is only stillness, hot water, and the slow, deliberate motion of hands belonging to someone who has spent a lifetime learning how to prepare a single, perfect sip of tea. Tonight, we drift into that peaceful, hidden world, the world of medieval Japanese tea houses. As you step fully into the tea house, the outside world seems to fall away, almost as though the air itself grows thicker, quieter, more deliberate. The door closes behind you with a muted wooden click, and the small room absorbs the sound immediately, holding it gently before letting it fade. The fragrance of the space is subtle, made of things that have no sharp edges. The faint sweetness of aged tatami mats, the earthy whisper of clay walls, and the distant trace of incense burned earlier in the day. Everything here exists in softness. Imagine the feeling beneath your feet. The tatami mats give slightly when you step on them, offering a muted rustle, a warm texture under the skin. These mats were woven slowly, strand by strand, from the dried rushes harvested in nearby wetlands. Each tatami carries the memory of water, sunlight, and time. Thousands of thin reeds pressed together, shaped into long rectangular islands, meant to hold the quiet movements of human life. To walk on them is to touch a piece of the landscape, transformed through careful craft. The light inside the tea house is calm and low, filtering through paper screens that diffuse the sun into a soft, pale glow. There are no harsh shadows, no bright reflections. The light feels as though it has traveled a long way to reach you, softened by every surface it touched along the path. Even dust in the air seems to drift more slowly, floating in thin, gentle lines that move only when you breathe. A tea house in medieval Japan was never meant to impress through it did not try to overwhelm with decoration or richness. Its beauty came from restraint, from the way the simplest objects could become complete worlds if observed with patience. The walls are plain, some bearing the faint texture of hand-applied clay. Wooden beams show natural knots and patterns, left untouched. Nothing is polished to shine. Nothing gleams. Everything is quiet, warm, and slightly worn, as if holding the memory of countless peaceful moments. You take a seat near a small alcove. In TSC space, nothing is placed randomly. The arrangement is deliberate, yet effortless, as though the tea master simply allowed each object to settle where it naturally belonged. In the alcove stands a single scroll, hanging vertically. Its ink strokes are spare, each line drawn with intention but without force. The scroll shows one character, perhaps calm, or wind, or simply an abstract shape that needs no name. Below it, a small vase holds a single stem of seasonal foliage, a sprig of pine in winter, a camellia in early spring, a bit of golden grass in summer. It is neither bouquet nor decoration. It is a reminder of the world outside, brought into the stillness of the tea room. You breathe in, slowly, and notice how the silence changes. In a tea house, silence is not emptiness. It is a living presence. You can hear small details you would never notice elsewhere. The shift of your clothing, the faint settling of wood, the quiet tap of a tea scoop placed onto a tray. Even your heartbeat seems more noticeable here, steady and calm, as though it too has adjusted to the rhythm of the room. The tea master enters with steps so soft they almost do not disturb the air. Every movement is minimal, not because it must be perfect, but because it must be sincere. The master bows gently, hands resting for a moment on the tatami, an acknowledgement not of hierarchy, but of shared presence. In a tea house, everyone, host and guest, temporarily sets aside roles, statuses, and possessions. All are simply people sharing a moment of stillness. Before preparing tea, the master arranges the tools. Each object rests on the tatami with care, creating a scene that feels both natural and quietly precise. The tea bowl stands at the center, modest in size, perhaps with slight imperfections in its shape or glaze. Those imperfections are not flaws. They are signs of life, proof that the bowl was shaped by human hands and fired in a killa where flames danced unpredictably. To hold such a bowl is to feel the warmth of craft passed down through generations. Beside the bowl lies a thin bamboo ladle, curved at the end, polished through years of use. Its surface is smooth but not slick, carrying the subtle irregularities of the plant from which it came. A small bamboo scoop rests nearby, carved from a single piece and left unpainted. A silk cloth, folded neatly, lies next to the water vessel. These are the tools of the ceremony, simple, quiet, and made from elements of the earth. The master begins by cleansing the tools. The cloth moves slowly across the bowl's rim, smoothing away invisible dust. The ladle is washed with warm water, droplets falling softly back into the kettle. Each movement is unhurried, almost meditative. The purpose is not to polish or sterilize, but to prepare the space to create a moment where everything unnecessary falls away. You notice the sound of water inside the kettle. It does not boil violently. It simmers gently, creating a soft whisper known in tea tradition as the sound of wind in the pines. It is the point where water is hot enough to bring out the tea's subtle flavors, yet not so hot that it becomes aggressive. The sound seems to fill the room like a calm breath. The master lifts the ladle, dips it into the kettle, and pours a thin stream of water into the tea bowl. The water's surface ripples delicately, catching the light. Then the bowl is emptied and dried again, not rushed, but with the same deliberate softness that shapes every action. Watching the process feels like observing a slow unfolding. Not a task, but a quiet ritual of awareness. The tea itself, ground into a fine green powder, is brought out in a small container. When opened, it reveals a color so gentle and vibrant that it looks almost like sunlight captured inside leaves. The master uses the bamboo scoop to place a small portion into the bowl. The sound of the powder touching the ceramic is whisper thin, like the sound of sand shifting under a breeze. More warm water is added, and then comes the moment when movement becomes motion. With a bamboo whisk, the master begins to stir. The whisk does not race. It does not strike. Instead, it drifts in small, circular motions, then faster, then slower, teasing air into the mixture. A soft foam appears at the surface, pale green, smooth and delicate, holding tiny bubbles that reflect the dim light. The sound of whisking is gentle, rhythmic, almost like distant rain. As the bowl is turned and presented to you, you feel its warmth transferred to your hands. The bowl is heavier than it appears, grounding your palms, offering a subtle steadiness. When you bring it closer, the aroma rises grassy, slightly sweet, warm, and clean. You tilt the bowl and take a slow sip. The taste is simple and deep, slightly bitter at the beginning, then mellowing into something soft and round. It is not a flavor meant to excite. It is a flavor meant to accompany stillness. And in this moment, surrounded by quietness held by the gentle architecture of wood and earth, you begin to feel what tea masters spent their lives understanding. That peace is not a thing one seeks, but a space one allows. The tea bowl rests in your hands for a moment, its warmth settling gently into your palms, inviting you to pause before taking another sip. Around you, the tea house seems to breathe with you, slow, steady, unhurried. In the stillness, even the smallest sounds become meaningful. The faint creak of bamboo in the wind outside, the soft shift of the master's sleeve as they arrange their tools, the quiet rustle of the tatami as someone adjusts their posture. Everything blends into a gentle harmony that feels older than memory. You place the bowl back onto the tatami with calm, careful hands, not because ceremony demands precision, but because the space itself encourages softness. The bowl settles with a muted, earthy sound, and the master inclines their head in acknowledgement. There is no praise, no approval, only shared awareness, a moment of presence that needs nothing more. Outside the tea house, faint hints of nature filter through the wooden walls. A single cricket chirps somewhere beyond the garden. Leaves shift in a slow breeze, brushing lightly against each other with a sound like fabric. A drop of water falls from a bamboo pipe into a stone basin, creating a steady rhythm, one that monks and tea masters have listened to for generations. This environment is not decoration, it is part of the ceremony, reminding all who enter that simplicity is not emptiness, but fullness, without noise. Imagine yourself rising slowly and moving toward the sliding door that opens into the garden. The floorboards beneath your feet feel smooth and slightly cool, worn by countless steps over the centuries. When you slide the door open, light spills gently into the room, and the subtle fragrance of soil and moss enters. Stepping into the garden feels like stepping into a painting that has chosen to breathe. The garden is small, but its details are endless. Moss blankets the ground in soft, uneven patches that look like quiet waves. Stones sit in deliberate positions, some upright, some resting at angles, place not for symmetry but for balance. A narrow path of irregular stepping stones leads through the space, each one chosen for its shape, as though the earth itself offered them. These stones guide your movement, slowing your steps naturally. You cannot rush on stones like these. They ask you to feel their texture, their temperature, their place in the garden. Around the edges grow shrubs trimmed into simple rounded forms, neither decorative nor wild. A carefully pruned pine tree leans gently in one direction, shaped by years of wind and years of care. The air carries the subtle scent of damp earth, of leaves warmed by the sun, of water resting in hollow bamboo pipes. Everything in the garden exists with purpose, yet nothing feels restricted. It is a quiet landscape where nature and human intention meet in a single breath. As you follow the stones, you approach a small water basin known as a soothe. Water trickles into it from a bamboo pipe above, and with every drop, the surface ripples outward before returning to stillness. Pilgrims, samurai, monks, and merchants all once knelt here to wash their hands before entering the tea house, allowing cool water to rinse away dust, sweat, and the tensions of the road. Even now, dipping your fingers into the basin carries a calming sensation. The water is cool but not cold. It slides across your skin with a clarity that feels both physical and emotional. as if washing more than the body. In medieval Japan, tea houses were built not only as places to drink tea, but as places to shed the weight of the world. Within these walls, political rank meant nothing. Wealth meant nothing. A lord and a monk sat in the same silence, drank from similar bowls, breathed the same warm air. The act of lowering oneself through the small entrance door ensured that everyone entered humbly. It reminded each visitor that stillness requires bowing not to another person, but to the moment itself. Imagine the tea master now beginning to clean the utensils after you've finished the tea. The bamboo whisk is rinsed gently, the water running through its thin, delicate tines with a whisper-like motion. The scoop is wiped slowly with a silk cloth, each pass careful and smooth. The bowl is held for a brief moment, as though the master is acknowledging the craftsmanship, the history, the hands that shaped it from raw clay. The process of cleaning is not an ending, but another moment of the ritual, holding the same quiet importance as the preparation before it. You return to the tea room and take your place once more on the tatami. The room feels even warmer now, not from heat, but from familiarity. You notice details that escaped you earlier. The faint sheen on the kettle spout, the soft pattern of woven bamboo on the ladle's handle, the small shadows dancing along the paper screens. These are not objects to admire, but companions in stillness. The tea master sits across from you, hands resting gently on their lap, and the silence between you feels full, not empty. It holds respect, presence, and an unspoken understanding that this moment exists only now, shaped by the soft light, the warm air, and the shared breath of two people sitting quietly. In medieval Japan, this connection was considered the heart of the tea ceremony. Not the tea itself, but the moment where two lives met in the absolute simplicity of being. Outside, the wind changes direction slightly, shifting the scent of the garden. The bamboo fountain fills, tips forward, and strikes a stone with a hollow, resonant sound. This sound, called shichiodoshi, was originally meant to scare away deer, but over time it became a gentle marker of passing moments, a reminder that even in stillness, time moves with quiet footsteps. Inside, the master prepares a second bowl of tea, this time for themselves. The movements mirror those you saw earlier, yet they feel even slower, even softer. When they take their first sip, the room seems to inhale with them, the act becoming part of the space. You sip your tea, the master sips theirs. Two people sharing heat, taste, breath, and quiet. In this tea house, hours could pass without feeling like time is moved. Light shifts from one side of the room to the other. Shadows grow longer. The kettle's sound deepens as water slowly recedes. The scent of tatami grows warmer, and you sit, simply aware, simply present, wrapped in a calm older than the tea house itself. As the tea master sets the bowl down beside them, a faint wisp of steam rises from its rim, curling gently before dissolving into the still air. The room feels suspended, as though sound and movement have agreed to pause together. You notice how the warmth from the kettle radiates in soft waves, touching the edges of the tatami, drifting toward the walls, and settling lightly on your skin. It is not heat that demands attention. It is warmth that waits patiently, inviting you deeper into the quiet. The master adjusts a small piece of charcoal inside the brazier, and the sound it makes a tiny crack. A whisper of ember echoes softly, adding a barely perceptible note to the silence. In medieval Japan, charcoal was not only fuel, it was part of the ritual. Different grades of wood were chosen to burn at different stages, creating flames that warmed steadily, never sharply. Even the size of the charcoal pieces was chosen with care, their shape influencing the rhythm of boiling water. Everything about the ceremony was shaped by the idea that the smallest elements could guide the mood of the room. You watch as the master lifts the kettle slightly and adjusts its position on the brazier. The metal releases a soft sigh, a faint ringing note as it meets the new angle of heat. Over time, tea masters learned to listen to these tiny sounds, not to control them, but to understand them. When the kettle whispers, the water is calm. When it hums, the water is preparing itself. When it begins to sound like wind brushing through pine needles, it is ready. The master's movements seem slow at first, but the more you observe, the more you realize they follow a natural rhythm, a rhythm shaped not by rules, but by intention. Each gesture flows into the next, like water finding its path without hurry. The silk cloth drapes softly across the hand. The ladle lifts and lowers in a smooth arc. The tea bowl is rotated with a gentle touch, showing respect to its maker, its journey, its presence in the moment. Outside the tea house, light begins to shift, casting a different glow through the paper screens. Afternoon sunlight softens into a mellow gold that settles across the floor in long, quiet shapes. Dust motes drift through these beams, moving slowly, as though they too are part of the ceremony. The screens themselves breathe slightly as a breeze passes by, their fibers expanding and contracting in a way that can be felt more than seen. You allow your gaze to wander through the room. The wooden beams overhead have subtle curves, shaped long ago by the natural growth of the trees. They were chosen not for perfect straightness, but for the beauty of their imperfections. In the tea house, such irregularities are not corrected. They are honored. The knots, the bends, the soft variations in color, all are reminders that beauty is found in things that remain true to their nature. A nearby shelf holds a few objects. A tea caddy with a lacquer finish dulled slightly by years of use. A folded cloth of deep indigo. A small ceramic vase with a lone branch resting inside. These objects do not compete for attention. They harmonize with one another quietly, as though they have long been comfortable sharing the same space. Each carries traces of previous ceremonies. Faint scratches, slight wear, gentle discoloration, all marks of life, time, and human hands. The tea master pours a small amount of water into a separate bowl, cooling the ladle and rinsing away the remnants of tea. The sound of water pouring is soft and steady, forming a gentle arc that glistens in the golden light. In tea's moment, the room feels like a vessel holding not only tea and tools, but also centuries of calm. Medieval tea houses were designed to be timeless, places where warriors, poets, merchants, and monks all experienced the same simplicity, the same stillness, the same humble beauty. You take another slow breath, feeling how the air enters your lungs without resistance, how it moves through you as quietly as the steam rising from the kettle. The scent of matcha lingers lightly in the room, a mixture of fresh grass, warm earth, and something almost floral. It is subtle, neither sharp nor sweet, a fragrance that invites rather than demands attention. The master gestures gently toward the alcove, where the hanging scroll sways slightly in the shifting air. The brushstrokes, too, seem to hold movement within them, as if capturing a moment of wind or water with a single stroke. Tea masters often chose scrolls that matched the season, the weather, or the mood. A single line of poetry, a minimal character, or an abstract brushstroke could guide the atmosphere of the entire ceremony. Beyond the garden wall, the faint call of a distant bird punctuates the stillness. Its voice is soft enough that it does not break the tranquility. Instead, it becomes part of the quiet landscape of sound. Nearby, a bamboo fountain empties again, creating the familiar hollow tonk as it strikes the stone. A sound that marks time not as a reminder of passing hours, but as a gentle heartbeat of the garden. Inside, the master begins preparing utensils for another serving of tea. Perhaps this bowl will be slightly lighter in flavor, or perhaps it will carry more froth. Each bowl is unique, shaped by tiny variations in water temperature, whisk, speed, and the master's intuition. Medieval tea culture did not value uniformity. It embraced the beauty of difference. The idea that each moment could be appreciated for exactly what it was, and never repeated in the same way again. As the whisk moves once more, the rhythm becomes hypnotic. A soft shi-shi-shi sound, steady and even, blends with the warm hum of the kettle. The room grows quieter still, not because sound has vanished, but because the sounds have settled into harmony. Each one gentle, each one unheard. When the bowl is ready, the master places it before you with both hands, not as a gesture of service, but as a gesture of sincerity. In the tea ceremony, every offering is an invitation to be present. You lift the bowl again, feeling its smooth, slightly roughened surface. The warmth inside gathers softly in your palms. You take a slow sip. The taste is earthy, calm, and round, unfolding gradually rather than all at once. It sits in your mouth like a resting leaf, quiet and balanced. You feel your breath deepen again, and the silence stretches wider around you. Outside the tea house, the sun continues its descent. Inside, time folds gently, without haste. The warmth of the tea travels slowly through your chest as you take another sip, settling somewhere deep, like a lantern being gently lit within you. The tea bowl lowers back toward your lap with steady hands. Its weight familiar now, its texture grounding. Around you, the room's quiet deepens, not by growing silent, but by becoming full of small, delicate sounds that remind you how present everything is. The master sits with their back straight, their posture relaxed but attentive. In the soft light, their robes fall in calm folds across the tatami, forming shapes as simple and natural as the lines of the tea house itself. Their hands rest lightly on their knees, unmoving except when they shift a tool or adjust a cloth. Every gesture they make seems to arise from stillness rather than effort, as though the room and the ceremony are guiding the movement rather than the other way around. A faint breeze passes through the paper screens again, and the shadows in the room sway almost You can see the silhouette of leaves drifting on the other side of the wall, moving with a rhythm too soft to hear. Shadows lengthen slightly, stretching across the tatami in gentle patterns that rearrange themselves slowly as the sun continues its descent. Time in the tea house moves not in minutes or hours, but in how light changes, and how the water sounds, and how your breathing deepens. The master retrieves a small wooden box from a corner of the room. Its surface is worn smooth by years of touch. When opened, it reveals a collection of tea bowls, each with unique shapes, colors, and textures. Some bowls are darker, with glazes that resemble deep forest greens or river stones. Others are pale, with soft tones like winter clouds or spring blossoms. Medieval tea culture valued bowls that felt alive in the hands, imperfect, asymmetrical, shaped by fire and earth in ways that no craftsman could fully predict. You imagine the long journey each bowl took to arrive here. Clay gathered from riverbanks, sculpted by artisans whose techniques had been passed down quietly through generations. Kilns heated by wood that burned for days at a time, flames licking the clay unpredictably, leaving marks that would never be repeated. Bowls cooled slowly, absorbing the breath of the air around them. Transported by foot or boat, held, examined, cherished, and finally selected by a tea master who knew that the right bowl for one moment might not be the right bowl for another. The master chooses a bowl with a soft, matte surface, its glaze resembling morning fog drifting across distant hills. They lift it with both hands, cradling it gently, as though greeting an old friend. Even before the bowl is filled with tea, it carries meaning. The texture inviting slow touch, the color inviting quiet reflection. Medieval Japanese tea houses were built around such subtlety. Nothing demanded attention, yet everything rewarded presence. The master places the bowl on the tatami and begins arranging the utensils again for another serving of tea. You watch as they fold the silk cloth, aligning its corners with care. The cloth makes no sound, yet its movement feels like part of a wider rhythm. The bamboo scoop touches the tea powder, lifting just enough, then gently tapping it into the bowl. The sound it makes is barely audible, a soft contact between bamboo and ceramic, fragile and fleeting. The kettle murmurs again. Its voice has shifted slightly as the water level lowers, becoming a deeper, more resonant tone. The master listens to this sound, pausing a moment before dipping the ladle and pouring hot water into the bowl. The water falls in a thin stream, clear and steady, striking the tea powder and forming small swirling patterns that dissolve slowly into green. The steam rises, carrying with it a scent that blends with the warm fragrance of the tatami beneath you. The whisk begins to move. Its bamboo tines glide through the mixture with small, rapid strokes, creating tiny circles that gradually widen. The sound of whisking is so gentle that it feels more like a vibration than a noise, a soft texture in the air that lulls the mind. As foam forms at the surface, pale and even, the color beneath deepens into a shade reminiscent of fresh spring leaves. You watch the master's hands as they draw the whisk upward, letting the final traces of foam settle. The bowl is turned slightly, then placed before you once more. The gesture carries neither ceremony nor casualness. It is simply part of the flow, a moment shaped by intention and gentleness. You lift the bowl again, feeling the new texture beneath your fingers. Each bowl offers a different sensation. Some are coarse, like stone warmed by sunlight. Others are smooth, like river pebbles washed clean. This one is somewhere in between. Its glaze soft, but not slippery. Its shape rounded in a way that invites the hands to close around it naturally. The tea inside radiates warmth upward, and when you inhale, the scent feels familiar, yet subtly different from the previous bowl. You take a sip, and the flavor spreads slowly across your tongue. The bitterness is softer this time, mellowed by the foam. There is a quiet sweetness that emerges afterward, lingering gently. It is a taste that does not ask for attention. It simply waits to be noticed. In medieval tea houses, this subtlety was valued more than richness or complexity. The goal was not pleasure, but presence. Outside, a group of bamboo stalks rustles softly in the garden. Their hollow bodies sway in the wind, creating a soothing, rhythmic clatter light, hollow and calming. You can almost picture the garden from where you sit, the moss absorbing lit afternoon light. the stepping stones cooling as shade spreads across them, the water basin reflecting the sky in muted tones. The tea master finishes their bowl quietly and sets it down with deliberate calm. For a moment, neither of you speak or move. The room seems to settle around the two of you, wrapping itself in the harmony formed by simple acts: boiling water, whisking tea, sharing warmth, breathing slowly. Gradually, the master rises and motions toward a narrow hallway that leads deeper into the tea house. You follow, moving slowly, your footsteps making soft impressions on the tatami. The hallway opens into a small room used for preparation, where tools are stored and water is drawn. This space is even simpler than the tea room, with shelves made of unfinished wood, vessels arranged in quiet order, and faint traces of steam clinging to the air. A large ceramic jar in the corner holds fresh water taken from a nearby well. Its surface is cool to the touch, and when the master lifts its lid, you can smell the clean, mineral scent of mountain springs. Water pure unadorned was considered a gift in tea culture, and choosing the right source was a practice treated with deep sincerity. Some masters walked long distances to find the water they preferred, believing that its character shaped the flavor of the tea as much as the leaves themselves. In this small room, tools from different eras and regions rest side by side. Some are worn from long use. Others, newer, still carry the faint sharpness of fresh craftsmanship. Each has a place, each has a purpose, and each waits quietly for the next moment when it will be part of the ceremony again. The master takes a ladle of cool water from the jar and pours it into a shallow basin. The sound is smooth and low, almost like silk brushing against tatami. You realize how much attention you have given to these small sounds, not because they are loud, but because they are meaningful. In tea houses, the ear learns to hear what is usually missed: water, cloth, breath, wood, light. The master motions for you to sit once more. As you settle into place, the room seems to welcome you back with its familiar warmth. The kettle's voice resumes its quiet murmur. The sunlight continues to soften, and the ceremony, though marked by distinct moments, feels like a single, continuous breath shared between you, the tea house, and the world outside. The room grows slightly dimmer as the day continues its slow descent toward evening. The light that once filtered through the paper screens now carries a deeper hue, like soft amber. It rests gently on the tatami, warming the woven surface in long, quiet shapes that shift gradually as the sun moves. You become aware of how time in the tea house is not measured in hours or minutes, but in the way light settles, in the temperature of the air, in the quiet breath of the kettle. The master returns to the garden for a moment, sliding the wooden door open with a slow, controlled movement. A wash of cooler air enters the room, carrying with it the faint scent of greenery and damp stone. You hear the soft rustle of moss beneath their steps, and the gentle brush of leaves. When the door closes again, the room seems even more peaceful than before, as though the outside world has offered a deep exhale. When the master returns, they carry a small wooden tray, on which rests a collection of seasonal sweets. These are not elaborate confections, but simple shapes, crafted from bean paste or rice flour, colored with natural dyes drawn from flowers, fruits, or leaves. Their purpose is not indulgence, but balance. In the tea ceremony, the slight sweetness prepares the palate for the gentle bitterness of the tea, creating harmony between contrasting flavors. The tray is placed before you with quiet care. The master sits beside you, their posture steady, their presence calm. You take a small bite of one sweet, and its texture melts slowly on your tongue. Soft, smooth, almost velvety. The flavor is mild, no sharper than a whisper, and fades gently, leaving a subtle trace of sweetness that lingers in the background. It pairs with the tea not by overpowering it, but by softening your senses, guiding them toward equilibrium. The master watches with a faint, serene expression, not assessing but simply sharing the moment. Medieval tea masters believed that the true beauty of the tea ceremony existed in these small exchanges, not in displays of skill, not in ornate settings, but in the quiet companionship between host and guest, shaped by attentiveness and sincerity. You take another sip of tea, and this time, the flavor feels more complete, shaped by the sweet that preceded it. The bitterness settles differently in your mouth, gentle and grounding. The warmth of the bowl brings your attention back to the present moment, anchoring your breath, slowing your thoughts. Outside, the bamboo fountain empties again, its hollow tonk sound drifting into the tea room. It repeats at unhurried intervals, like the heartbeat of the garden, marking time in a way that feels ancient and organic. You realize how soothing it is to hear something so simple, so predictable, and so connected to the natural world. The tea master rises once more to adjust the kettle. The brazier glows faintly beneath the pot, casting a soft warmth that reaches across the tatami. The kettle's surface reflects the dim light, holding a muted sheen that seems to pulse gently with the simmering water. Medieval artisans crafted kettles not only for function but for sound. The thickness of the iron, the curve of the spout, the depth of the base, all influenced the tone of the simmer. Some kettles were prized for the soft hum they produced, a sound that felt as calming as a whispered lullaby. The master pours a small amount of cool water into the kettle, lowering its temperature slightly. The addition creates a deep, quiet note inside the pot, altering the sound of the simmer just enough to signal a new stage of the ceremony. The mastery here lies not in strict rules, but in understanding how water responds to heat, how tea responds to water, how guests respond to the moment. The room breathes again in silence. You begin to notice how your own body feels, how your shoulders have softened, how your breath has deepened without effort, how the air feels warm but never heavy. This is the effect tea masters sought. Not excitement, not distraction, but a gentle returning to oneself. The master invites you to rest for a moment while they tidy the utensils. Each item is cleansed with the same careful attention shown during preparation. The whisk is washed and shaken softly, droplets forming brief arcs in the air before falling into the basin. The tea scoop is wiped with the silk cloth, using slow, deliberate movements. The tea bowl is examined briefly, as though acknowledging its role, before being gently set aside. You sit quietly, feeling the stillness settle deeper into your bones. The garden outside is now bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon. Shadows of pine branches stretch across the moss, moving slowly with the wind. A small stone lantern stands near the stepping stones, its surface worn by years of rain and sunlight. It looks timeless, as though it has always been there, watching over the quiet path that leads to the tea house. The master returns to sit across from you again, folding their legs beneath them with the same fluid grace. There is no rush, no sign of the ceremony nearing an end. In a medieval tea house, time was allowed to stretch naturally, expanding to fill the needs of the moment. Sometimes the ceremony lasted minutes, sometimes hours, guided not by a schedule, but by shared understanding. The master gestures toward the alcove, inviting you to observe the hanging scroll once more. In the shifting light, the ink strokes seem different now, softer, more fluid. The character or painting captures a feeling rather than a message, something that cannot be explained with words. Tea masters chose each scroll with great care, believing that its presence shaped the entire atmosphere. It was not decoration, but a quiet companion to the ceremony, offering stillness without expectation. Your attention drifts to the vase beneath the scroll. The single stem inside it has begun to cast a longer shadow across the wall. The slight curve of its leaves holds a kind of natural elegance, a beauty formed by weather, by time, by its own quest for sunlight. In the simplicity of this arrangement, called chabanale, lies a deep philosophy. That nature, when observed without interference, reveals its own quiet truth. The tea master slowly stands and gestures for you to follow. They lead you back toward the small garden path. As you step outside again, the ground feels cooler beneath your feet. The stones hold the memory of the day's warmth. The evening air has begun to settle around them. You walk slowly along the path, noticing how the moss compresses slightly under each step, releasing a subtle, earthy scent. The master stops near a bamboo pipe that funnels water into a hollow stone basin. The basin is worn at the edges, its surface smoothed by countless hands over many years. Water gathers slowly in the hollow before spilling over in a steady, endless stream. You dip your fingers into the basin, feeling the chill of the water contrast with the warmth of your skin. The sensation is refreshing, grounding, and simple. A few fireflies begin to glow, faintly near the edges of the garden. Their lights flicker softly, adding a quiet magic to the dusk. The sky above the tea house shifts into shades of muted blue and gold, with clouds stretched thin across the horizon. In medieval Japan, gardens like this were designed to be beautiful not only in daylight but also at twilight. When shadows blend with shapes and edges soften, the master stands beside you in silence, as if sharing the view. Nothing needs to be said. The garden, the tea house, the lingering warmth in your chest, all of it becomes part of the same gentle moment. A moment built not from grandeur but from presence. As dusk settles over the garden, the shapes of stones and shrubs begin to soften, merging gently with the deepening blue of the evening. The edges of the tea house blur against the dimming sky, and the air cools in a way that feels both refreshing and still. A faint chorus of night insects begins to rise, their sounds weaving a delicate, rhythmic blanket over the quiet landscape. The tea master steps slowly back toward the tea house entrance, sliding the wooden door open again with the same careful motion as before. The room beyond is now lit only by the last traces of daylight filtering through the shoshi screens. The light is subdued, almost dreamlike, filling the space with a warm, diffused glow. It feels like the final breath of the day. You follow the master inside, moving from the cool evening air into the lingering warmth of the tea room. Your eyes adjust gradually to the soft light, noticing once more the calm shapes of the utensils and the gentle grain of the wooden pillars. The kettle continues to murmur, though its voice is lower now, reflecting the slight decrease in heat. It sounds like a friendly whisper, steady and comforting, as though reminding you that it is still present, still holding warmth. The tea master prepares a small oil lamp, placing it on the tatami in a corner of the room. When lit, the flame produces a faint golden halo that extends only a short distance, leaving most of the tea house in gentle shadow. The flickering light dances across the walls, revealing textures in the clay that you had not noticed before. Tiny cracks, irregular surfaces, and subtle depressions that speak of age and craftsmanship. Nothing in the tea house is perfectly smooth. Everything bears traces of time. The master sits, and you take your place once more. At this hour, the tea ceremony becomes even quieter. Movements grow slower, breaths deepen naturally, and the space between gestures widens. Medieval tea masters believe that the true spirit of the tea house revealed itself in the evening, when the absence of strong light allowed the subtleties of shadow and silence to come forward. In this dimness, your senses sharpen in gentle ways. The warmth feels warmer. The quiet feels quieter. Even the faint scent of tatami becomes more noticeable. The tea master places a new bowl in front of him, slightly larger than the previous ones, with a surface that glows softly in the lamplight. Its glaze is uneven, marked by darker streaks that resemble the flow of ink and water. The bowl feels alive, shaped to be fired, touched by the unpredictable nature of smoke and heat. It is a reminder that beauty here is not controlled, but guided, never imposed, but allowed. The master begins preparing tea once more, but this time the movements are slower than before, shaped by the quiet of night. The scoop lifts the green powder with deliberate gentleness, as though not to disturb the peaceful air. The ladle pours water in a thin, steady stream, its sound blending with the low murmur of the kettle. The whisk moves in small circles, but even its soft strokes feel calmer, producing a smooth, even foam that reflects the lamplight like a delicate sheen. You observe every detail without effort. The soft rise of steam, the whisper of whisking, the slight crackle from the brazier, the way the flame of the lamp sways each time the master moves. Everything blends into a single, quiet experience. A living stillness that requires nothing from you, offers everything gently, and allows your thoughts to settle like dust. And a sunbeam, when the bowl is placed before you, you lift it carefully. It is warmer than the evening air, and the contrast feels soothing. The bowl's roughness brushes against your fingertips, grounding you in the present moment. You inhale the aroma once more, noticing how the tea smells slightly richer in the dimness. Warm, deeper, as though the night has given it a new layer of quietness. The sip you take is slow. The tea spreads across your tongue in a gentle wave, earthy and soft, with a slight sweetness that lingers longer than before. You close your eyes for a moment, allowing the warmth to fill your chest, your arms, your breath. The tea feels like part of the room, as if the walls, the tatami, and the shadows are all drinking alongside you, sharing the same tranquil rhythm. When you open your eyes, the master is watching quietly, not evaluating, but simply being present with you. In the tea ceremony, the guest's experience is not judged. It is on, and in the soft glow of the lamp, that sense of shared presence becomes deeper, woven into the calm of the fading day. Outside, a light breeze moves through the garden once more. The bamboo leaves rustle gently, their delicate edges brushing together with a sound like silk sliding across wood. Somewhere farther away, water trickles from a higher point in the landscape, creating a soft, distant murmur. These sounds do not disturb the ceremony. They complete it. The tea master clears the utensils, moving them with the same care shown during the day. But the evening changes the feeling of the process. Shadows from the lamp lengthen across the tatami, adjusting their shapes with each motion. The bowl glows softly in the shifting light. The whisk's shadow is delicate and elongated, stretching across the mat like the outline of a quiet memory. As the master folds the silk cloth, you notice the faint shine of its fibers catching the lamplight. The cloth moves like water, its delicate surface flowing and settling in slow, fluid motions. Even this simple act feels meditative, a gesture shaped not by speed, but by intention. When the utensils are put away, the master rests their hands gently on their lap and closes their eyes for a short moment. This pause is not a formal part of the ceremony, nor is it a signal. It is simply a breath, a moment of shared stillness. You find yourself mirroring the gesture, your eyes lowering, your breath deepening, your body relaxing further into the softness of the room. The lamp flickers softly. Its flame bends slightly as the air shifts. Shadows sway across the ceiling, tracing faint arcs that echo the movements of the whisk, the ladle, the leaves outside. You feel as though the entire tea house is breathing with you in a calm, rhythmic cycle. The master stands and gestures quietly for you to follow to the veranda at the edge of the tea house. When the door slides open, the cool night air wraps around you with gentle immediacy. The sky is now a deep indigo, with stars beginning to shimmer faintly between drifting clouds. The garden below glows softly in the moonlight, its stones pale, its moss dark, its water basin reflecting the sky in a thin, trembling mirror. You step onto the wooden veranda. The boards beneath your feet are smooth from centuries of use, worn down by the quiet steps of monks, samurai, and travelers who came seeking peace. The wood exudes a subtle warmth retained from the day, offering comfort even as the night grows cooler. The master stands beside you in silence. Together, you look out at the garden, watching how the wind moves lightly across the moss, how the stones cast long, gentle shadows, how the bamboo fountain empties, once more with a soft, hollow note. The tea house behind you glows warmly through the screens, like a lantern guiding the night. Its light spills softly onto the veranda, mixing with the moonlight, creating a space that feels both sheltered and open. A place where time itself seems to pause. Here, in this moment, the world feels as quiet as the surface of still water. You remain on the veranda for a little while, letting the cool night air settle gently around you. The sounds of the garden unfold slowly, as though the darkness has invited them to speak more softly. A distant creak, hidden behind a cluster of trees, adds a quiet murmur to the night. The leaves whisper in occasional gusts of wind, brushing together with a rhythm that is easy to breathe with. You begin to feel as though the boundary between yourself and the garden has softened, blurred by the quiet. The tea master steps down onto the small gravel path nearby, their footsteps making a soft crunch that seems to dissolve almost immediately into the night. They walk toward a stone lantern nestled among low shrubs. The lantern, though unlit, reflects a faint glow from the moon, its curved edges smooth from centuries of rain and touch. The master brushes a small leaf from its surface, not out of necessity, but out of a kind of gentle instinct. A gesture that preserves the lantern as quiet dignity. A frog croaks somewhere near the water basin, its voice soft and short-lived. The sound ripples through the garden like a tiny stone dropped into still water. You can imagine monks centuries ago, pausing to listen to the same sound, finding in it the same subtle rhythm, the same reminder that life continues in small, patient motions. The tea master returns to the veranda and sits beside you, their posture calm, their breath steady. In the dim light, their presence feels almost like part of the architecture, as constant and grounding as the wooden beams, as familiar as the tatami, as patient as the lantern outside. They speak nothing, and nothing needs to be spoken. Silence is a companion here, not a void. The master lifts a small wooden box, opening it to reveal a set of incense sticks made from fragrant woods and herbs. The aroma is subtle even before it burns, carrying hints of sandalwood, pine, and the faint sweetness of distant blossoms. They choose one, place it into a small ceramic holder, and light it with a faint spark. The flame touches the incense for only a second before extinguishing itself, leaving behind a thin, curling ribbon of smoke. The smoke rises and unfurls in slow spirals, its movement soft and unpredictable. It drifts upward, catching the faint glow of the lamp behind you, then disperses gently into the night. The scent deepens, wrapping the veranda in warm, quiet warmth. Incense was often used in medieval tea houses, not as a grand gesture, but as a simple way to clear the air, both literally and spiritually. Its smell encourages the mind to settle, to become as still as the smoke that floats and fades in its own time. You inhale deeply, letting the scent travel gently through you. It blends with the cool night and the faint sweetness of the tea still lingering on your palate. These overlapping sensations create a kind of calm that feels layered, a quiet that gathers, grows, and settles with every breath. After a moment, the tea master stands and motions for you to follow again. You step down from the veranda, your feet pressing softly into the gravel. The garden path curves around a small pond, where moonlight rests like a thin silver sheet over the water's surface. A few ripples disturb the reflection, created by small insects skimming across the pond or by a fish turning slightly beneath. These movements are subtle, gentle reminders that even in stillness, life continues. The path leads to another small structure, a waiting hut often used in earlier stages of the tea gathering. It is simply with a small roof made from thatch and walls, constructed of woven bamboo. The door is low, just like the entrance to the tea house, encouraging humility in the act of entering. The master slides it open, revealing an interior bare, except for a small bench and a clay water jar. This hut, called a makia, served historically as a place where guests waited for the host to prepare the tea room. Tonight, it feels like a small sanctuary of its own, a space made for breathing. You sit on the bench, and the master fills a cup from the water jar. The water is cool, drawn from a fresh source earlier that day. When you lift the cup to your lips, the water tastes pure and soft, its coolness calming the warmth inside you. For samurai, monks, travelers, and villagers alike, this simple act, drinking cool water under the roof of the waiting hut, marked a transition from the outer world to the inner. It was a symbolic cleansing, a reminder that the tea ceremony was not only about tea, but about entering a state of presence. The master sits beside you for a moment, their gaze soft, resting on the pond outside. The night insects continue their gentle chorus, creating a quiet symphony that repeats without urgency. The air is still except for the faint movement of incense drifting from the veranda. Everything feels connected. The sound of water, the rustle of leaves, the scent of smoke, the warmth within you. After a while, the master rises again. You follow them back toward the tea house, walking slowly along the path. Each step feels lighter now, as though the garden has gradually absorbed any weight you carried into it. The stones beneath your feet guide your pace naturally, not rushed, not hesitant, simply steady. The tea house glows gently through the paper screens, offering warmth in contrast to the cool night. When you enter again, the room feels transformed. The shadows are deeper, the lamp's light warmer, the silence thicker in the most comforting way. You kneel once more on the tatami, feeling the slight give beneath your knees. the familiar woven texture supporting your weight. The master prepares a final bowl of tea for the evening. This bowl is different, softer, lighter, intended not for ceremony but for closure. The whisk strokes are slower. The water pours in a gentler stream. The foam is thin, delicate, like a quiet reflection of the day itself. The master sets the bowl before you and bows lightly. You lift the bowl and take a sip. The warmth fills you with a sensation that feels almost like gratitude. Not directed at anyone, but simply arising from the quiet of the moment. You sip again, slower this time, letting the flavor linger, letting it fade naturally. When you finish, your hands lower the bowl gently to the tatami. The room seems to exhale with you, settling into deep stillness. Outside, the garden waits under the moon. Inside, the tea house waits in warm tranquility, and you sit in the center of it all quiet, grounded, held by the peace of a place built for the simplest, most human kind of calm. The master retrieves the empty bowl and places it gently beside the kettle, allowing it to rest in the warm glow of the lamp. You watch the shadows shift along its curved surface, soft arcs of darkness that move with the slight flicker of the flame. The bowl, though still warm from the tea, slowly releases its heat into the room, merging with the quiet warmth that has been gathering since the ceremony began. The master kneels in silence, their hands resting lightly on their lap, their posture relaxed, yet attentive. In medieval Japan, tea masters were trained not only in technique, but in presence, the ability to inhabit a moment fully, without distraction or tension. Watching them now, you understand how much of the ceremony is shaped not by what they do, but by how they are. Their stillness sets the rhythm of the room, guiding your own breath toward a slower, deeper cadence. The night continues to darken beyond the shoshi screens. The last trace of sunset fades from the sky, leaving a soft indigo that deepens into near. Stars appear in quiet clusters, their faint light barely visible through the paper screens. The moon, now higher, casts a gentle glow on the garden, illuminating the outline of the pine tree and the curved stone lantern nearby. Their shadows stretch across the moss in delicate patterns that seem to sway as the breeze moves. Inside the tea house, the lamp's flame becomes the central source of light. Its warmth dances across the walls, giving them the appearance of gently swaying fabric rather than solid clay. The air holds the faint scent of incense, now fading to a soft trace that blends with the natural fragrance of tatami and wood. Everything is subdued, muted, softened by the hour. The tea master begins to put away the utensils used during the evening. They place each item into a wooden box with the same care shown throughout the ceremony. The whisk goes first, its delicate bamboo strands drying in the cool air. The tea scoop follows, wiped once more with a silk cloth to ensure no powder remains. The tea caddy, its lacquered surface reflecting the warm lamp glow, is closed and secured. Even the kettle is lifted slightly to allow the brazier to settle beneath it, the embers inside glowing faintly like tiny resting stars. You realize that each tool carries a lineage. The whisk shaped from a single piece of bamboo, the scoop carved by hand, the kettle forged by artisans whose families passed down their craft through generations. These objects were not made for decoration or display. They were made for use, for quiet rituals, for moments of presence. Their value lies not in their age or rarity, but in the calm they help create. The master turns toward you with a serene expression and gestures gently to the tatami beside them. You move closer, feeling the warm floor beneath your palms as you settle beside the hearth. The brazier's glow is soft, steady, casting a circle of gentle light that fades at the edges. The faint crackle of charcoal continues, a sound almost too subtle to notice, unless listened for. Sitting beside the warmth, you feel a sense of deep grounding. The air near the brazier carries a different texture, warmer, smoother, like a gentle blanket covering your skin. The kettle emits its soft, familiar murmur, the pitch now lower as the water level decreases. The sound resembles a distant stream, quiet and steady, flowing thoughtlessly through the evening. The master pours a small amount of water into a separate bowl, using the ladle with the same gentle control displayed earlier. They lift the bowl and tilt it slightly, observing the clarity and movement of the water. This act is not part of the formal ceremony. It is simply a reflection, a pause, a way of honoring the presence of water, a substance central to life, to tea, to stillness. They set the bowl down and close their eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. You find yourself doing the same. The breath enters smoothly, softly, without effort. It fills your chest, expands your ribs, and then leaves just as gently. The quiet sound of inhalation and exhalation becomes part of the atmosphere, merging with the kettle's murmur and the distant rustle of leaves. The master slowly opens their eyes and reaches for a small wooden fan resting near the alcove. This fan is not used for cooling but for tending to the charcoal. With gentle motions, they waft a small amount of air toward the brazier, encouraging the embers to glow slightly brighter. The movement of the fan creates a soft rustle, a sound nearly indistinguishable from the whisper of a sleeve. The embers respond with a faint flicker, sending a warm shimmer across the tatami. The master sets the fan aside and motions toward the alcove once more. The hanging scroll, illuminated softly by the lamp, reveals new details in the low light. The brushstrokes appear deeper, the ink richer. What looked earlier like a simple, minimal character now seems to carry depth, not in meaning, but in presence. The painting or calligraphy on the scroll was chosen not for complexity, but for its ability to guide the room into tranquility. Below the scroll, the small vase still holds its single stem, though the shadows around it have deepened. In medieval tea culture, this arrangement was a reminder that beauty exists even in the smallest expressions of nature. A single branch, a single flower, a single leaf. Each carried enough quietness to fill a room. You feel the tea master's gaze resting briefly on the scroll, then on the vase, then on the flame. Their attention is unhurried, drifting naturally from one element to another with the same calm flow as the ceremony itself. You begin to see how the tea house is not a space filled with objects, but a space filled with relationships between light and shadow, warmth and coolness, silence and sound. The master turns back to you and gives a slow, respectful bow. It is a simple gesture, acknowledging the shared time, the quiet presence, the shared breaths. You return the bow, feeling how natural the motion has become in this space. They stand and walk to the outer door, sliding it open slightly. Cool night air enters again, bringing with it the crisp scent of pine and the faint sweetness of flowers resting in the darkness. The lamplight spills outward for a moment, illuminating the veranda before fading into the garden beyond. The master looks out briefly, as though making sure the night is calm, then returns to the hearth. You remain seated, feeling your breath slow further, your body sink deeper into rest. The tea house feels like a cocoon now, warm at the center, cool at the edges, wrapped in layers of silence and soft sound. You sense the weight of the day falling away, absorbed gently by the tatami, by the wooden beams, by the quiet itself. The master extinguishes the lamp with a careful motion, dimming the room to a soft, ambient shadow. The only remaining light comes from the faint glow of the brazier and the moon filtering through the screens. The room feels timeless in this dimness, suspended between day and night, between waking and sleep. Nothing moves except the quiet flicker of embers and the slow rise of your breath. The dimness inside the tea house settles like a blanket, thick but gentle, wrapping the room in a muted glow that softens every edge. The faint orange shimmer of the dying embers becomes the room's quiet heartbeat, offering just enough light to see where the tatami ends and the shadows begin. In this near darkness, the tea house feels even more intimate, more sheltered, almost like a resting creature breathing softly in sleep. Outside, the garden has grown still. The breeze has eased into a delicate lull, barely stirring the leaves. Even the insects have softened their calls, leaving a subtle hum that merges seamlessly with the silence. The sound of water from the bamboo fountain continues at long intervals, each falling drop spreading ripples through the night as if marking time with infinite patience. The echo is hollow, calming, never intrusive. Inside, the kettle's murmur has faded to a low, steady hum, a sound so soft it's almost indistinguishable from your own breath. Its warmth continues to radiate, barely perceptible but deeply comforting, like the last traces of sunlight lingering on the skin long after dusk has passed. The tea master sits across from you, their posture perfectly still, their presence as calm as the shadowed room around you. As your eyes adjust further to the dimness, the textures of the room begin to emerge in gentle relief. The tatami shows faint patterns of woven reeds. The wooden beams above reflect touches of moonlight through the screens, revealing their natural curves and grain. The clay walls absorb the darkness, giving them a depth that feels almost like quiet water. Nothing is flat here. Everything holds a soft dimensionality, shaped by subtle shifts in shadow. The tea bowl beside the hearth glows faintly from the remaining warmth inside it. Its glaze, which appeared matte in daylight, now reflects the faint orange embers in small, glimmering patches. The bowl looks like a quiet moon resting on the floor, still holding the memory of tea, of warmth, of hands that cradled it. The master reaches for a small wooden container tucked into the shadows near the alcove. When opened, it reveals a delicate incense coil, one meant to burn slowly through the night. They place it onto a ceramic dish and light its edge with a single ember from the brazier. The flame catches, glows briefly, then fades, leaving behind a thin wisp of fragrant smoke. This incense is different from the earlier one, deeper, more earthy, meant not to awaken the senses, but to quiet them. It carries notes of old forests, dry leaves, and ancient temples. The fragrance seems to move through the tea house like a soft tide, rising and receding with each breath you take. Medieval tea houses often relied on such scents to create an atmosphere suitable for reflection, meditation, or simply the gentle unwinding of the day. The master sits again, the incense between you, creating a faint spiral of drifting smoke. The smoke catches tiny pieces of moonlight and turns them into floating silver strands that slowly dissolve into the darkness. Watching it, you feel your thoughts begin to drift in the same slow, unhurried patterns. In Tiskiat, the master finally moves, but only to pour a small amount of remaining warm water into the tea bowl. The sound is faint, but resonant, a soft echo that breaks gently across the tatami. They rinse the bowl with deliberate care, then set it upside down to dry. This final cleansing is a gesture of closure, not ceremony, a way of acknowledging the day's quiet journey, of thanking the tools for their presence. You notice how your body feels heavier now, yet comfortable, as though the tea house has invited you to sink deeper into stillness. Your breathing has slowed without your awareness, aligning itself with the soft rhythms of the room. Even your heartbeat seems quieter, softened by the atmosphere around you. The tea master rises and steps toward the veranda once more. They slide open the shoshi with such care that it makes no sound at all. Cool night air flows in, refreshing the warm interior. The scent of damp earth mixes with the lingering incense, creating a grounding, soothing aroma that fills the tea house like a slow-moving cloud. From the veranda, the moon appears through gaps in the foliage. Pale, round, and luminous, its reflection touches the edges of the pond and the garden, creating a trembling path of light across the water's surface. The ripples from the bamboo fountain distort the reflection in gentle waves, making the moon appear as though it is breathing. The master steps aside, allowing you to sit on the veranda if you wish. When you do, the wooden boards beneath you feel cool and smooth, their grain warm under your fingertips. You lean forward slightly, resting your hands on your knees, and breathe in the night air. It carries threads of pine, bits of moss, the faint sweetness of nocturnal blossoms, and the earthy, comforting scent of the tea house behind you. The sky stretches endlessly above the garden, dotted with faint stars. In medieval Japan, the night sky was often regarded as a space for contemplation, a reminder of tranquility, of the vast quiet beyond human activity. In this moment, the stars feel close, as though they too are listening to the silence of the tea house. The master remains quiet beside you, sharing the view, sharing the stillness. Their presence feels steady and comforting, like the slow pulse of the earth. They place a folded cloth beside you, not a cue for action, but simply an offering of softness, something to rest your hands upon as the night deepens. A gentle wind moves through the pine branches, sending a soft shiver through the needles. The sound is delicate, like a deep breath made visible. It washes over the garden and slips into the tea house, mixing with the fading warmth inside. You feel it brush your skin lightly, reminding you of the balance between warmth and coolness, between shelter and openness. The master picks up a small wooden bell, one used in meditation, and holds it quietly in their hands. They do not ring it. They simply hold it, letting its presence speak through its silence. The bell reflects the faint moonlight, casting a tiny silver gleam onto the tatami. The night has now fully embraced the tea house. Shadows have settled into their deepest hues, and the lines between the interior and the garden have blurred into softness. The tea ceremony is long finished, but the experience continues in every breath, every sound, every movement of the air. You sit there, letting the quiet envelop you completely, letting the warmth of earlier hours settle deep into your body, letting the night carry your thoughts away, letting the tea house hold you gently, like an old friend. The tea master remains seated beside you on the veranda, their posture unchanged, their presence as steady as the wooden beams overhead. The night air continues to cool, settling into a quiet that feels older than memory. Far beyond the garden walls, faint echoes of life move gently. The distant creak of a wooden gate, the soft rustle of an animal in the underbrush, the occasional whisper of wind gliding over rooftops. None of these sounds intrude. They simply mark the vastness of the world beyond this enclosed haven. The moonlight deepens in color, casting a pale sheen over everything it touches. The moss appears almost silver where the light falls, while the stones look darker, their edges soft. The pond reflects the night sky so clearly that it seems like a second, quieter world one, where the stars float on water instead of hanging above it. A single ripple disturbs the surface, then disappears, leaving the reflection whole again. The tea master lifts the small wooden bell slightly, turning it in their hands so that its faint shimmer catches the moonlight. The bell is cool to the touch, its wooden surface smooth from years of handling. It has been part of countless ceremonies. Its silence, as important as its sound. Tonight, the master does not ring it. Instead, they place it gently beside the veranda, as though returning it to rest. You feel the air grow still around you. The quiet becomes so deep that even the smallest sensations rise into awareness. The warmth of your clothing against your skin, the soft rhythm of your breath, the gentle weight of your body settling into a comfortable position. In the presence of such calm, even thought begins to slow. The mind does not race. It drifts, like a leaf carried by an evening breeze. The tea master stands, moving with deliberate gentleness, and walks toward the edge of the garden path. Their footsteps make almost no sound, the gravel shifting only slightly beneath their sandals. They pause near the water basin and glance downward, observing the way moonlight refracts on the water's surface. This moment of quiet observation is part of the tea tradition, a return to nature, a way to reconnect with the world beyond the walls, guided by simplicity. When they return to the veranda, they carry a small wooden bucket filled with fresh water. They kneel beside the brazier and pour a small amount over the cooling charcoal. The steam rises softly, blending smoke and warmth into a gentle cloud that lifts into the night before fading completely. The room grows slightly cooler as the embers dim, but the fading warmth feels natural, like the end of a long breath. The glow of the charcoal fades to a dark red, then to a soft gray. The kettle releases its final whisper and then falls silent, its surface cooling slowly in the night air. In medieval Japan, this moment, when the last warmth leaves the kettle, was often interpreted as the ceremony's truce conclusion. Even if no one spoke of it, the end of heat signaled the return to quiet, the return to the ordinary world, the return to oneself. The master places a small wooden lid over the brazier, enclosing the remaining embers. The sound is faint, a soft meeting of wood against clay. The tea house, once warmed by steam and glowing light, now settles into a cooler tranquility. The night has fully embraced the room. You sit for a while longer, feeling the shift. The warmth that once filled the space now resides in you instead, in your chest, your breath, your quiet awareness. The tea house has given you everything it had: warmth, stillness, presence, companionship with the moment. Now it rests, knowing its role is complete. The master sits again, not across from you, but beside you this time, facing the garden. Their calm posture seems to mirror the stillness of the night. They fold their hands gently on their lap, breathing softly, their attention drifting over the moss, the stones, the faint outline of the pine tree. Their presence feels like part of the garden itself, quiet, rooted, steady. A thin breeze rises once more, brushing through the pine needles with a sound like a whisper passing through silk. It carries the faint scent of distant blossoms, as though the night has reached into the depths of the forest to bring a final offering. The air cools your cheeks gently, tracing a path across your skin that feels like the earth's quiet touch. Your body relaxes further. The weight in your shoulders softens. Your spine settles naturally. Your breath becomes shallow in the gentlest way. Not from tension, but from rest. You feel as though the tea house itself has become part of your body. Its stillness woven into your breath. Its warmth etched into your memory. The tea master looks toward the sky. Their gaze lingers on the moon, on the stars, on the deep, quiet darkness between them. You sense they are not looking for anything, simply witnessing the way one witnesses a soft rain, or the movement of clouds, or the slow drifting of incense smoke. Their calm observation invites you to do the same, so you lift your eyes to the sky, letting its vastness settle gently over your thoughts. Beneath the stars, the tea house becomes almost invisible, blending into the night with the same effortless simplicity it shows in daylight. The wooden beams, the paper screens, to clay walls, all of it seems to soften, as though the building is dissolving into the quiet itself, leaving only presence, only atmosphere, only a faint glow of remembrance. The master rises again and retrieves a folded blanket from the corner of the tea room. They place it beside you on the veranda. The gesture is simple, offered without words, without expectation. In medieval Japan, hosts often provided subtle comforts for guests who lingered late. Not to encourage conversation, but to encourage rest. The blanket is soft, woven from natural fibers, holding a faint scent of cedar. You pull the blanket gently around your shoulders. The fabric warms quickly against your skin, blending with the cooler air in a comforting balance. The night feels even softer now, like a lullaby made of air and shadow. The tea master remains standing for a moment, watching the garden as though assessing whether anything more needs tending. Then they kneel and place their hands gently on the tatami, bowing with a calm, deliberate motion. It is not a goodbye. It is simply acknowledgement of the moment, of the night, of the shared stillness. You bow in return, feeling your body ease into the motion naturally, as though following a rhythm older than memory. The master rises, moves toward the tea room, and sits quietly once more. Present, unhurried, part of the night. The blanket around your shoulders holds the last warmth of the tea house close to your skin, forming a gentle cocoon against the cool night air. As you breathe, the fabric shifts slightly, absorbing your quiet movements. The softness settles into you, encouraging your muscles to loosen just a little more, letting the day fall away piece by piece. The master remains seated inside the tea room, their silhouette faint against the dim glow that lingers around the brazier's edge. Their posture is steady, unmoving, shaped by years of training and calm presence. In the near darkness, they appear almost like a carved figure, not rigid, but rooted, embodying the stillness of the night. Their breath is subtle, rising and falling in a rhythm so gentle it might be mistaken for the breeze itself. The garden beyond the veranda fades into deeper shades of blue and black. Only the surfaces that catch the moon, the curved rim of the water basin, a few stones, the tips of pine needles, reveal their shapes. Everything else blends into a soft, unified shadow. A landscape where edges no longer draw attention, where the eye rests without effort. A faint rustle moves through the shrubs, perhaps a small creature exploring the quiet. The sound is delicate, like paper brushed lightly by fingertips. It pauses, then continues in slow intervals, disappearing as gently as it arrived. In a tea garden at night, even the smallest presence becomes part of the stillness, not an interruption but a reminder of life's subtle movements. The air carries a mix of fragrances, now a thread of incense so faint it feels like memory. The natural scent of pine and moss, the lingering aroma of tea absorbed into your breath. When you inhale, the scent is soft and layered, reminding you of warm bowls, tatami mats, aged wood, and the cool water of the garden basin. In tea culture, fragrances and sounds are not chosen artificially. They arise naturally from the materials, the climate, the hour, and this combination forms the atmosphere Fisi, the landscape of presence. The master slowly stands again and walks toward a wooden shelf near the alcove. They take out a single candle in a small ceramic holder. Unlike the earlier oil lamp, this candle burns with a softer, more wavering flame, creating shadows that dance in slow, unpredictable patterns along the walls. The light reaches the alcove, illuminating the hanging scroll for a moment. The ink strokes glow faintly, then slip back into shadow, revealing different textures each time the light shifts. The tea master sets the candle on the tatami, letting its glow fill the center of the room. The flame reflects on the polished surface of a lacquer tray beside it, doubling the light, but only gently. In this setting, brightness is never harsh. It is always muted, softened, redirected through natural materials until it becomes something that soothes rather than stimulates. You turn your attention back to the night sky. The stars have grown slightly brighter as your eyes adjust. Some are sharp pinpoints. Others appear as faint smudges of light, like distant fireflies lost in the depths of the firmament. The moon continues its slow arc overhead, illuminating parts of the garden in intervals as thin clouds drift across its face. Your eyelids grow heavier, not from exhaustion, but from relaxation, from the soft, continuous rhythm of the scene, from the tea's lingering warmth, from the slow movements of the master and the gentle silence. The tea house seems designed for this state, neither awake nor asleep, like floating quietly between two worlds. The master approaches you once more, steps soundless on the tatami and wood. They kneel beside you with a delicate motion and place a small ceramic cup near your hand. The cup contains warm water, infused lightly with toasted barley. It is not tea. It is a drink often served late at night in quiet households, calming, gentle on the stomach, and meant to ease the transition toward rest. You lift the cup, feeling the faint warmth against your palms. When you sip, the taste is mild, almost sweet, earthy, comforting in a way that needs no complexity. The warmth spreads through your chest in expanding circles, each one slowing your breath just slightly more. The master watches for a moment, then offers a soft nod, a shared acknowledgement that the evening has moved deeper into its quietest hours. The tea house, now without the active ceremony, feels even more like a refuge. You sense the way the walls embrace the low light, the way the tatami absorbs small sounds, the way the darkness acts, not as absence, but as a soft container for everything within it. You lean back slightly, allowing your body to rest more fully. The blanket shifts, molding itself to your shape, the fibers warming slowly with your body heat. The veranda beneath you is cool but steady, grounding you gently. The master begins to tidy the few remaining objects in the room. They stack wooden trays softly, the sound muted by careful hands. They place the tea containers in their wooden boxers, sliding lids closed with the quietest touch. The candle flickers with each small motion, casting rippling light across their sleeves. When the tidying is done, the master sits quietly once more, their figure framed by the candle's glow. The flame forms a small pool of brightness around them, But beyond that circle, the room drifts back into deep shadow. You notice your own breathing settling into a rhythm that echoes the candle flame, a gentle rise, a gentle fall. Your mind wanders through the memories of the ceremony, but softly, like walking slowly through a familiar path in twilight. Nothing is sharp. Nothing intrudes. Thoughts drift in and out, like clouds passing across the moon. Outside, the bamboo fountain tilts again, creating a hollow tone that feels distant and comforting. The sound punctuates the night, like a slow heartbeat, in a world that has decided to rest. The tea master closes their eyes briefly, hands resting loosely on their knees. Their stillness is complete, yet warm an invitation to sink even deeper into the quiet. You sense that they are listening to the rustling leaves, to the faint ringing of the cooling kettle, to the shifting weight of the night. The garden, the tea house, the air, the silence, everything seems to merge into a single, tranquil presence, a space where time moves without urgency, without weight. Your breath grows even slower. Your eyelids drift lower, and the night continues, soft and endless. The candle's flame continues its gentle wavering, casting arcs of warm light that move slowly across the tatami. Each flicker reveals and hides parts of the room in a steady rhythm, like waves brushing against a quiet shore. The soft glow touches the wooden pillars, then fades into the deeper shadows near the ceiling. The flame bends slightly when the night air shifts, but always returns to its calm center. The tea master sits in this shifting light, their form half illuminated, half blended with the darkness. Their robes absorb the glow softly, their sleeves draping in quiet folds. Their faces serene, shaped by the same stillness that fills the room. A long breath leaves their chest, not a sigh, not a signal. Simply the natural release that comes with deep calm. The kettle has cooled almost completely now. Its surface no longer trembles with steam. The faint warmth that once rose from it has lowered into silence, as though joining the rest of the tea house in its gradual descent into stillness. The embers beneath the brazier have dimmed to a muted red, glowing only enough to suggest the memory of heat. They pulse faintly in the darkness, like the gentle heartbeat of the room. Outside, the garden seems to fall into an even deeper quiet. The bamboo leaves have stilled. The pond lies like polished glass under the moon's reflection. Only the occasional ripple, caused by an unseen fish or drifting breeze, disturbs its surface, a small motion that quickly returns to calm. Even the insects have softened their calls, their voices dissolving into the distance. You sit with the blanket wrapped around your shoulders, feeling the warmth of your own breath gathering beneath the fabric. Your body has entered that rare state between wakefulness and sleep, not fully one, not fully the other. Your limbs feel heavy in the most pleasant way, as if drawn gently downward by the tatami beneath you. Your thoughts have slowed into long, drifting shapes. Nothing sharp remains. Nothing holds urgency. The tea master stands again, quietly, carefully, as though rising through water rather than air. Their steps toward the alcove make almost no sound, the tatami absorbing their weight with its woven resilience. They approach the hanging scroll and look at it with a calm, contemplative gaze. In this dim light, the scroll's character, or brushstroke, looks softer now, its edges blurred by shadow. What seemed clear earlier in the day has transformed into something almost dreamlike, a shape meant not to be analyzed but felt. The master gently adjusts the vase below the scroll. The single stem inside it has shifted slightly as the night progressed, its leaves casting new shadows across the clay wall. The adjustment is subtle, a turning of the stem, a small shift of the vase space, but even this minor motion seems to harmonize the room, bringing a balanced stillness to the space. After adjusting the arrangement, the master returns to the center of the tea room, but instead of sitting immediately, they kneel beside the candle. With a steady hand, they cup the flame briefly, shielding it from a faint breeze that slips through a crack in the shoshi. Then they adjust the wick gently, guiding the flame into a smaller, softer glow. In the late hours, bright light would feel intrusive, so the flame is lowered to a gentle whisper of illumination, enough to hold the space together without stirring the senses. The candle now casts only a delicate circle of light, leaving much of the tea house in muted shadow. You can see the master's outline, but not the details of their face. You can sense the shape of the tatami, but not each weave. The room feels more like a memory than a place. Warm, diffused, floating. The master seats themselves again, this time a little closer to you. They rest their hands on their lap, palms down, fingers relaxed. Their presence carries a quiet reassurance, like sitting beside a calm stream in darkness, knowing the water moves, even when you cannot see it. A faint breeze moves through the open shoshi once more, lifting the corner of the blanket just enough to remind you of the coolness outside. The air carries the faint scent of night flowers, perhaps Yukinosita or early blooming camellia. Their fragrance is subtle but unmistakable in the clean night air. They blend with the lingering incense, creating a layered scent that is soothing, earthy, and slightly sweet. You draw the blanket closer. Its fibers retain the warmth of your body, and the contrast between the cool air and the soft heat makes you sigh. Just a breath, long and gentle, flowing out into the quiet. The tea master folds their hands together, as if acknowledging this sigh, this release of tension. Without speaking, they tilt their heads slightly, as though to encourage you to rest more deeply, to let the night carry you further into stillness. Their silence has the texture of kindness. Another long moment passes, then another. Time begins to lose its shape, blending into the faint rustle of leaves, the distant call of a solitary nightbird, the slow cooling of the brazier. Even these sounds grow softer, as if the world itself is preparing to sleep. The tea master rises again, slowly, gracefully, and moves toward a small wooden cabinet at the edge of the room. They open it with care, revealing a folded sleeping mat made of soft, padded fabric. It is simple, clean, lightly scented with cedar. They lay it out on the tatami near the veranda, smoothing the edges with gentle strokes. This gesture is not ceremonial. It is practical, human, warm. Tea houses in medieval Japan sometimes served as resting places for travelers or guests who lingered late. Hospitality extended quietly, without words, without insistence. The sleeping mat is placed there not to encourage sleep, but to allow sleep if it comes. The master steps back and gives a slight nod, an invitation, but without pressure. You may continue to sit on the veranda, or you may lie down. Either choice is part of the night's unfolding. Your eyelids grow heavier. The blanket warms the back of your neck. The soft glow of the candle feels further away now. The shadows nearer, calmer. The tea house holds its breath with you. The garden listens. The night deepens. The sleeping mat lies gently across the tatami, its edges aligned with quiet precision, as if even rest must settle into harmony with the room. The fabric, lightly padded, holds the faint warmth of cedar and the memory of countless peaceful nights spent here by travelers, monks, and guests who sought refuge in the silence of the tea house. Its presence seems to shift the atmosphere further, not into sleep, but into the possibility of sleep, a space where rest can unfold naturally. The candle's flame wavers again, shrinking slightly as the wick shortens. Its glow is now softer than ever, a thin halo of amber light that barely reaches the center of the room. It creates a deeper pool of shadow near the walls, where the lines of wood and clay melt into darkness. In this faint illumination, the tea house becomes both smaller and larger, smaller in the clarity of shapes, larger in the depth of quiet that fills the space. You feel yourself sinking deeper into the blanket, your body growing heavier with each breath. The cool night air touches your face gently, an alternating softness that cools the warmth inside the blanket, forming a delicate balance. Your breath becomes shallow, unhurried, the kind of breathing that belongs not to wakefulness, but to the calm border, where sleep becomes possible. The tea master stands at the edge of the room, their posture straight yet relaxed. They look across the tatami as if assessing not objects, not tasks, but the quiet itself. Their eyes drift toward the alcove, where the scroll hangs motionless, its ink strokes now barely visible in the dimness. The vase beneath it casts a soft, elongated shadow across the wall, its single stem a dark silhouette against the faint glow. Even in near darkness, the arrangement holds its quiet power, a reminder that simplicity continues to live even when almost invisible. The master steps toward the veranda, sliding the shoshi door open just a little wider. The night air enters more fully now, flowing across the tatami in a slow, steady breath. It carries the scent of damp earth, of cool stone, of the faint, sweet fragrance of distant blossoms. The temperature shifts subtly, a gentle reminder that the outside world is alive, that the garden sleeps in its own way under the moon. You hear the faint sound of water once more, the bamboo fountain tipping, emptying and striking the stone with its hollow tone. In the deep quiet of night, the sound feels softer, less distinct, as though absorbed immediately by the darkness. It is a reminder of time passing, but without weight or pressure, a rhythm for rest. The garden is now mostly a silhouette. The pine tree stands tall, its branches forming gentle arcs against the starlit sky. The stones along the pathway shimmer faintly, where moonlight touches them in fragments. The pond reflects a fractured version of the heavens, the water so still that only the closest ripples distort the stars. A firefly drifts across the garden's edge, its small green light blinking softly, a tiny heartbeat floating through the night. The tea master returns from the veranda and kneels near the center of the room. They take a quiet breath, then perform a small gesture, placing both palms flat on the tatami, bending slightly at the waist. It is a bow, not to you, not to the ceremony, but to the night itself. A bow of acceptance, of gratitude, of closing. In the tea tradition, such gestures are never required. They emerge naturally when the moment feels complete. You follow the gesture in your own way, perhaps only by lowering your gaze, or by breathing more deeply, or by allowing your shoulders to soften further. In tea space, every movement, even the smallest, becomes meaningful. The master then rises and begins extinguishing the remaining sources of light. They move slowly, ensuring no abrupt motions disturb the calm. The candle's flame shrinks further, then dims into a thin, glowing thread before disappearing entirely with a soft breath. Darkness expands gently into the room, filling the spaces where light once lived. But it is not an empty darkness. It is warm, held by memory, shaped by the soft glow left behind in your eyes. With the candle gone, the only illumination comes from the moon outside, diffused through the shoshi screens. It casts a pale, even light across the tatami, making the floor appear like a calm, shallow lake, reflecting the faintest shade of silver. The shadows no longer flicker. They rest in stillness, becoming steady companions to the quiet. The tea master sits once more, their silhouette outlined faintly by the moonlight. They appear peaceful, almost meditative, as though the ceremony continues silently within them even after the tools have been put away. Their breathing is slow, matching the rhythm of the night. In their stillness, you find reassurance, the kind that comes when someone shares quiet with you without needing words. You pull the blanket a little tighter, and the fabric shifts softly around your body. Beneath you, the tatami gives slightly under your weight, its texture warm and familiar. The night air brushes lightly against your cheeks and the back of your hands, cooling the warmth of the blanket in a soothing balance. Your eyelids droop lower, the world softening even before your eyes close. The master glances at you once, and something in their expression suggests a deep understanding of rest. They do not encourage you to sleep, nor do they try to keep you awake. They simply sit with you in the quiet, offering presence as the night carries your thoughts away. A silence settles, deeper than any before. Not empty, not heavy, just an endless, soft stillness, the kind that gathers in the spaces between breath. The tea house, with its aged wood and woven floors, seems to exhale. The garden holds its breath. The moon drifts slowly across the sky, and you remain in the center of it all, wrapped in warmth, wrapped in quiet, wrapped in a moment older than history. The moonlight resting on the tatami grows softer with each passing moment, as though the night itself is dimming the world in preparation for sleep. The shadows on the floor stretch long and quiet, without the shifting movement that candlelight once gave them. They lie still, like gentle brushstrokes made by time rather than by hand. The tea master sits quietly near the center of the room, barely outlined by the faint glow slipping through the shoshi screens. Their form is calm, steady, almost indistinguishable from the darkness behind them. Only the gentle rise and fall of their breath reveals that they, too, belong to this moment of living stillness. Their presence is comforting, like an anchor placed softly beside your drifting thoughts. Your body feels heavier now, pleasantly, peacefully heavy, as though the tatami beneath you has become a soft current drawing you downward, inviting you to rest. The blanket around your shoulders holds your warmth in a steady embrace, its fibers capturing the heat from your breath, turning it into quiet comfort. Every part of you seems to settle more deeply, becoming part of the tea house itself. The air is cool but gentle, brushing your skin like a soft hand smoothing a crease. It carries the scent of night blossoms, subtle and distant, and the faint memory of incense that lingers like the echo of a whisper. You breathe it in slowly, feeling it move through you, calming your chest, quieting your thoughts. Each inhalation arrives like a small wave. Each exhalation drifts out into the room, merging with the night. Outside, the garden has entered its deepest silence. The bamboo stands motionless. The pond holds the stars like a polished mirror, reflecting constellations with a clarity that feels almost unreal. A single leaf lies on the water's surface, but Ellie Mobin carried gently by ripples so slight they seemed to arise from the water's own breath. Even the bamboo fountain has grown slower, dipping less frequently now, as though the night has lulled it into its own form of rest. A distant night bird calls once, a soft, low note that travels through the garden and settles among the stones. The sound is brief, then fades instantly, leaving the night even quieter than before. It is as if the world has paused, holding everything gently in place. The tea masters shift slightly, adjusting their posture with a quiet motion that barely stirs the air. They sit a little closer to the veranda now, facing the open doorway where the moonlight streams in. Their robes settle softly around them, folds of fabric blending into the shadows. They place their hands together in a loose, comfortable shape. Neither a gesture nor a position, simply a resting of the body that reflects the peace of the moment. You feel yourself relaxing further. Your spine softens, your neck loosens, your shoulders release the last traces of tension. Your eyelids flutter in slow, heavy motions, as though caught in a gentle breeze. The quiet around you is not empty. It is filled with presence, with calm, with something deep and timeless. The tea master glances toward you, a soft, steady gaze filled with understanding. They know that this hour, this quiet, belongs not to conversation or ceremony, but to drifting, to sinking into stillness, to allowing the mind to dissolve into the night. They offer no words, no instructions. They simply remain present, a companion to your rest. Once more, the master stands and moves toward the veranda. The shoshi door is already open, but they slide it further aside, widening the entry so more of the night air can flow in. The breeze arrives slowly, cool but tender, carrying with it the scent of moss, flowing water, and the faintest hint of smoke from a distant home. The air washes over you like a soft wave, refreshing your breath, cooling your cheeks, soothing your skin. The master steps outside for a moment, their silhouette framed by moonlight. They walk along the veranda, their steps almost soundless on the wooden boards, and observe the garden. In the moonlit quiet, their figure appears smaller, more human, almost fragile in contrast to the vastness of the night. But their posture remains serene, grounded, centered, at peace with the world. After observing the garden, they return to the tea room and sit once more. Their presence feels like a warm anchor dropped gently into the sea of darkness. Even without speaking, they offer reassurance. You do not have to stay awake. You do not have to think. Everything is allowed to slow. The master places their hands on the tatami, their palms pressed lightly into the woven surface as they bow again. A gesture even quieter than the last. A gesture that acknowledges the night, the quiet, the closeness of sleep. You find yourself mirroring this motion unconsciously, your head lowering, your shoulders softening, your breath deepening. The body understands the ritual even when the mind is drifting. The tea house grows darker still as the moon shifts behind a thin veil of clouds. The light becomes dimmer, more diffused, softening every corner and edge. The shadows deepen, merging into long, flowing shapes that line the walls with gentle curves. It feels less like darkness and more like a warm cocoon, protective, silent, embracing. The master moves toward the sleeping mat and adjusts one of its edges with silent precision, smoothing out a small fold. Their fingertips barely graze the fabric, yet the gesture feels tender, caring, as if preparing a quiet resting place, not just for a body, but for a spirit that has wandered through long hours of stillness. They return to their place on the tatami and sit once again, legs folded beneath them, back straight but relaxed. Their silhouette is steady and calm, a living part of the room's atmosphere. They close their eyes slowly, as though entering a meditation that is not separate from the night, but woven directly into it. Your breath slows even further. Your thoughts drift into long, fading shapes. Your awareness softens around the edges, like ink spreading gently across paper. The tea house grows deeper, quieter, softer. A cradle of silence holding the last threads of the night. The tea master remains seated with their eyes gently closed, their posture so still that they could be mistaken for a sculpture carved from shadow. Only the faint rise and fall of their breaths shows that they are present, alive, and deeply attuned to the quiet that surrounds you both. Their presence seems to calm the very air, as if the night itself has softened out of respect. The moon is veiled now behind drifting clouds. The light that reaches the tea house is faint, fading into a gentle glow that touches the tatami like a whispered memory. Most of the room sinks into darkness so complete that the edges of objects dissolve. What remains visible appears like silhouettes in a dream, soft, rounded, without definition. The garden outside is barely distinguishable. The shapes of stones, shrubs, and trees merge into a single, dark landscape. The pond reflects only fragments of the dim sky, a few pale streaks of moonlight shifting on its surface whenever a breeze moves through. Even the bamboo fountain seems to have slowed, tipping only at long, patient intervals. In this near darkness, your senses shift. You feel more than you see. You hear more than you think. Your breath becomes the clearest sensation, rising and falling like a small wave on a vast, quiet shore. Each exhale leaves you feeling lighter, as though letting go of another layer of wakefulness. Your eyelids flutter. You blink slowly, letting your gaze settle on nothing, letting the darkness blur into a single, soft texture. You feel weightless in your body, yet grounded in the tatami beneath you, as if floating just above its woven surface. The warmth of the blanket contours to your shape, holding you gently. Your limbs relax further, surrendering to the softness around you. The tea master opens their eyes, but only slightly, just enough to observe you without disturbing the silence. Their gaze is calm, compassionate, unintrusive. They see your drifting state, your growing stillness. They seem to understand exactly where you are. Not fully awake, not yet asleep, resting in the thin, peaceful line between both worlds. In the tradition of medieval tea culture, this moment was cherished. It represented a type of harmony, not created by ritual, but by the quiet companionship between host, guest, space, and time. A state where nothing needed to be said, nothing needed to be done, and simple presence was enough. The master slowly rises to their feet, careful not to disturb even a single thread of quiet. Their movement is so smooth it seems to glide. They walk toward the veranda with measured steps, each one absorbed almost instantly by their silhouette blends with the darkness as they step out into the open night air. Outside, they pause beside the wooden railing. The garden stretches before them like a painting made from darkness and faint silver light. They look up at the sky, not searching for stars, but acknowledging the vastness above, even hidden behind clouds. The moon casts enough glow to suggest its presence. The master reaches down and touches the wooden railing lightly, as if greeting the night through the material of the house itself. The wood responds with a faint, hollow note, a soft resonance that echoes quietly in the stillness. The sound disappears almost immediately, swallowed by the vast quiet around it. After a moment, the master returns inside, sliding the shoshi with a breath-like motion. They kneel near the sleeping mat once again, smoothing a corner with gentle fingertips. They do not speak. They do not signal. They simply prepare the space for rest in the same calm way. They prepared tea earlier with attention, humility, and softness. The mat awaits you like a quiet tide pool in the center of the night. Its surface is faintly illuminated by the weakened moon, creating a pale rectangle of comfort on the tatami. The fabric looks soft, inviting, shaped by centuries of tradition and by the quiet labor of hands that wove it long ago. You shift slightly, feeling your body responding to the invitation without fully deciding to. Your shoulders lower. Your breath deepens again. The tea house feels warmer now, as though the walls have learned your presence and adjusted to hold you more gently. The tea master sits beside the mat, their posture relaxed, yet attentive. They are not watching you, not in a way that demands awareness, but simply sharing the quiet. Their presence feels like a guide into the deeper stillness awaiting you. A long silence unfolds, not the kind that needs to be filled, but the kind that fills you, slowly, steadily, softly, with rest. Your breath grows deeper. Your thoughts drift farther apart. Your body grows heavier in the way bodies do just before sleep. The master bows their head, as though acknowledging the night's embrace around you both. They remain still for a few breaths more, letting the quiet thicken, letting the darkness soften to its deepest shade. Outside, a breeze moves gently across the garden. The leaves respond with a soft, collective sigh, a sound so delicate that it seems to arrive from a dream rather than from the world beyond the tea house walls. The air that follows drifts into the room, cool and calming, brushing across your face like a final whisper of the day. You feel yourself moving closer to rest, slipping deeper into the softened edges of the night. The night settles with such gentleness that it seems woven into the tatami itself, as though the tea house has absorbed centuries of silence and is now releasing it back into the air in slow, steady breaths. The darkness is soft rather than heavy, comforting rather than obscuring. It wraps around the room like a loosely draped cloth, making everything seem closer, quieter, and more serene. The tea master remains seated beside the sleeping mat, their posture relaxed but attentive. Their silhouette is still and steady, the outlines softened by the faint moonlight drifting through the shoshi screens. You can barely see the details of their robes now, only the broad shapes, the folds of fabric falling in gentle curves, blending into the room's shadows. A hush has fallen over the tea house so completely that even the smallest sound becomes noticeable. The shifting of your blanket, the soft brush of fabric against your skin, the calm rise and fall of your breath. All of these seem to join the quiet rather than disturb it. Even your heartbeat feels slower, more rhythmic, as though syncing with the hush that fills the space. Outside, the garden's silence has reached its deepest point. The pond is motionless. The bamboo stands upright and unmoving, its slender leaves resting without tremor. The stones hold their places like sentinels in the darkness, their shapes softened by shadow. The air is still, save for the occasional faint movement high in the pine branches, where the wind plays in gentle, nearly inaudible tones. A single night insect hums faintly in the distance, the sound delicate enough to be mistaken for a distant vibration or the breath of the earth itself. It continues for a moment, then fades into the quiet, not abruptly, but gently, as though being absorbed into the night. The tea master adjusts their position just slightly, folding their hands more comfortably. Their breath moves in long, steady waves, and you find yourself naturally matching its rhythm. You inhale slowly, letting the cool air fill your chest. You exhale gently, letting your body sink a little deeper into rest. Each breath feels softer than the last, each pause longer and more peaceful. The master lifts one corner of the sleeping mat with both hands, smoothing it again as though preparing it for ancient guests long gone. The gesture is tender and unhurried, a small act of care performed with a quiet reverence that fits perfectly with the room's atmosphere. In medieval Japan, such silent gestures carried meaning. Hospitality expressed without words. Respect communicated through simple actions. They press the fabric lightly, ensuring it lies flat. The soft sound of their hands brushing the mat blends with the faint rustle of your blanket. These small noises settle quickly into the room's vast stillness. The tea master then retrieves a small cloth, folded neatly in half. They place it at the head of the sleeping mat, a simple gesture of comfort, providing a soft surface for your head to rest upon should you choose to lie down. The cloth carries a light, natural scent of clean fibers and cedarwood, reminiscent of storage chests kept cool and dry through the seasons. You feel your body responding to these gestures without effort. The mat looks inviting. The blanket around your shoulders warms you gently. The quiet in the room deepens into something almost tangible, like a soft surface you could rest upon. The master returns to their seat, positioning themselves so that they face the garden. Their eyes are open, but half lowered. The expression, one of deep calm. They seem to be listening to the night, not for a specific sound, but for the texture of its silence. A faint breeze stirs again. It moves through the garden, carrying the coolness of stone, the fragrance of moss, the distant sweetness of blooming flowers. It slips through the open shoshi and brushes across your face and hands. Your skin responds with a slight shiver, not of cold, but of awareness. The air feels alive, filled with layers of scent, temperature, and quiet motion. Your breath deepens again. Your body grows heavier. Your thoughts loosen further, drifting into smooth, slow currents. The tea master notices, though they do not turn their head. Their awareness is subtle, shaped by years of training and observing without intruding. They remain a steady presence, the kind that makes rest feel safe and natural. They do not speak, and they do not move toward you. They simply hold the space. After a long, quiet moment, the master gently reaches toward the shoshi screen and slides it only a few centimeters, letting in just a bit more moonlight. The light falls across the tatami in a narrow beam, illuminating part of the floor with a cool, silver glow. The rest of the room remains in darkness. The contrast is soothing light, resting alongside shadow, each respecting the presence of the other. The tea house feels timeless now, suspended in a space where night does not pass quickly, but stretches out in soft, unbroken stillness. The traditions held within these walls, the rituals of tea, the gestures of kindness, the arrangement of simple objects, all continue to resonate in the quiet. Even without ceremony, the room holds centuries of calm. Your eyelids grow heavier, yet the blanket warms you further. Your mind softens into shapes that do not hold form for long drifting impressions. Faint memories, gentle sensations. The tea house seems to cradle your awareness, guiding it tenderly toward rest. The master lowers their head, breathing out slowly. Their silhouette becomes even stiller. Saped become outside. The bamboo fountain tips once more, releasing a soft, hollow sound that blends into the darkness. It is the last distinct noise before silence envelops the garden again. You feel yourself slipping deeper into that same silence, held, supported, surrounded by peace. The night has grown so deep that its quiet feels like a soft embrace around the tea house, as though the world has settled into a single, endless breath. The garden sleeps. The pond rests, without a ripple. The pine branches barely move, their outlines blurred into the softness of the sky. Even the moon seems quieter, its pale glow resting gently on the tatami through the open shoshi. The tea master sits in calm silence, watching over the dim room as though tending to the night itself. Their posture is relaxed, their breath slow, their presence steady. Nothing more needs to be done. Nothing more needs to be said. The ceremony has long finished, yet its spirit lingers in every corner of the room. You feel the warmth beneath your blanket, the coolness of the night air brushing lightly across your skin, the gentle heaviness in your limbs. Your breath drifts in an even rhythm, each inhale and exhale becoming softer, longer, quieter. The tea house has gathered all the remaining traces of the day and transformed them into calm. The master rises at last, their movements as gentle as moonlight shifting across the floor. They step toward the veranda and look once more into the garden, not out of duty, but out of gratitude. The night answers with its own stillness, a partnership between silence and presence. When they return and fold their hands, the gesture feels like a closing bow, not of farewell, but of completion. The tea house has offered its peace, and now it rests again, returning to the deep quiet it has known for centuries. You settle further into your blanket. Your breath slows. Your thoughts dissolve like mist. The darkness around you becomes soft and warm, a cradle for the mind to drift into sleep. The tea house waits with you, sharing its calm. The master sits in stillness, sharing their breath, and the night stretches on, endless and tender. Here, in this deep quiet, the journey ends, not sharply, but gently, slipping into the same silence that has guided you through every moment of this night. You are safe. You are warm. You are held by the quiet. The tea house fades into darkness, and rest arrives like a soft, wordless blessing.